Scott Moore has been building a basketball powerhouse at Grace College. With recent transfers and graduations, will he be able to match recent success? We'll talk to Scott Moore. Cascade Hoops Talk starts right now. Grace College is coming off one of their most successful seasons. Scott Moore reworking the lineup. He'll talk to us about that. We all know Elijah Malone transferred, as well as the Gibbs brothers have transferred, and Jake Wadding graduated, so the team will definitely look different. But Scott Moore is optimistic, and I think there's going to be pretty good basketball in Winona Lake. Why don't we listen to Scott Moore, head men's basketball coach, Grace Lancers. Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D. I got Scott Moore. He's the head men's basketball coach, the Grace Lancers. Hey, Scott, thanks for being on.
Thanks, Billy. I got to start with this. I got to ask you a question. A two-parter. One, is it true that I am your favorite coach in the state of Michigan? And two, did you know that Grace is actually located in Indiana, not Michigan? Go ahead.
I was going to say you were my favorite Crossroads basketball coach who played at Columbia City with their twin brother.
Yeah, you can narrow that down a little bit. I was listening to Coach Cottingham's, and we won't tell him. He's not going to listen to my.
No, he'll never hear this, so we can say whatever we want about it.
Yeah, he'll listen to anyone except mine, I'm sure. So we can talk as much crap about Cottingham as we want, and he won't. Yeah, he won't even hear it. So
yeah, he'll never hear
good
it.
to hear from you, man. It's I tell you what, you're trying to get my blood to boil. I got to listen to all these Crossroad coaches talk, and then I get on there and I'm getting ready to speak to you, and I got to listen to stinking Freed Hardman and Coach just talk about his team and bring back bad memories. So, yeah, you got me fired up early here.
Well, that's good. You need to get your blood going. Let's talk.
Man, it's been terrific.
You were just talking about Freed Hardman. Of course, you fell to the eventual champion last season. But when you look back, you had really a historic run for the Lancers. You had the longest win streak in school history, best winning percentage, least games lost in school history, most assists, and second best field goal percentage. But all that being said and going, 34-2, at the end of the season, how did it feel for you and your staff and your?
Yeah, it's a hard question because the truth is, yeah, you feel sick to your stomach in the moment. I remember going through the handshake line, and you just had Coach Stutz on, who's, by the way, one of the best in the country, just tremendous. And I remember him going through the line, and he was almost apologizing, like, "Sorry, man, we played well." I was like, "Look, that's like, I'm okay. It's part of it, man. It sucks, but I told the boys all season, I don't want to lose, but I'm okay with getting beat." And I think we miss that sometimes as competitors and coaches, and especially today where kids get in this idea like it's not okay to lose. And I just disagree, man. I think that I don't want to lose, but I also don't want to beat myself. And I thought all season, I told those guys, like, hey, man, like, someone's going to have to play darn near perfect basketball to beat you. And that came true. I mean, we lost one game in the regular season where Huntington just kicked our teeth in. And it was a good message for us of saying, hey, look, some days you get punched in the mouth, and that's life, and you got to deal with it. And now the biggest thing is how you're going to react to this, right? And same thing with the Final Four loss to Freed Hardman is, and I'm not saying anything that, across the country didn't say. I did feel like, obviously the Langstons were incredible. Freed Hardman was incredible. Idaho was good again. Wesleyan was great. Cumberland's was great. There were a lot of teams. I felt deep in my heart like, holy smokes, we probably have the best basketball team in the country. But it doesn't mean you can hang up the banner automatically at the end of the year, right? Mm-hmm. So many things have to go right. You got to play really well. And once you get to Kansas City anyway, man, everybody's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, the long answer, yes, like, you do feel a little empty But as you sit back and recollect, like, again, I'm preaching, to these kids all the time, no offense, but winning that last game doesn't change anything about anything you guys did. And when you come back 10 years from now and you've got, you're married and you have a little one, and you can look up and see that Final Four banner and you can see that picture in the hallway of your team, you're not going to remember any of those games in Kansas City anyway. You know that. You are going to remember and talk about all those moments outside of basketball, where basketball was just the icing on the cake. The basketball games were just the bonus that came with it. You just didn't know it when you were 20 years old.
Yeah.
So that's my hope. Tremendous young men. I think that's the biggest thing is, I graduated 5, and they are just all 5 of them, man. I couldn't have been more proud to be their coach. And I told them this the other day. I don't have very many trophies in my office because I just don't put them up. But I've got every single kid that's graduated and played for me up on the wall on an 8x10. And I smile every day I walk in my office. So you know what? There's my trophies right there. All 15 or 16 of those guys that have graduated since I've been coaching for the last 5 years, there's my trophy. And it just gives me such pleasure to go in and look at them and smile, thinking like, gosh, there's my boys, right? And that's why I do what I do.
Something tells me you're going to end up needing a bigger office.
We'll see. We'll see how long God has coaching in my blood. It could be year to year. We'll see.
It is a testament to the program when those guys are successful when they leave. I've watched a lot of guys graduate, and to see them, they go and they have families and they have great careers. I mean, that's just super rewarding.
Yeah, it's your why, right? Why do you do what you do? Some people do it to make a lot of money. Some people do it to be on ESPN. Some people do it to get name recognition, and some people do it for a record. It's unique because we are in one of the few professions that you're actually announced by your record. Like, people think you're good at what you do based on how many games you win and how many games you lose. And you don't see too many dentists, getting announced like with 47, successful cavity fills and 3 bad ones. Like, that's not the profession. That's what we signed up for. So again, I think it goes back to what's your why. And if you can focus on that, I think you'll be happy. Basketball will always let us down, Billy. It's always going to. At some point, it could be a day, could be a week, could be a season, could be 10 seasons. Like, it is going to disappoint in some aspect. But that's why you really got to hang your hat on, okay, what's the why here? Why am I doing this? What's my purpose? I thought about that the other day, as I'm finishing practice. And I'm thinking about my little 4-year-old. You just talked about Coach Stutz's son, who's 9, coming to practice. And it's like, man, what a cool thing we have as coaches, especially at the NAI, where our kids are involved, man. Like, they can travel on the bus with us. We're putting them in locker rooms with guys that we know will say and do the right things around our kids. And that's a blessing that I don't think we talk about enough.
I think that's also an advantage at coaching at this level. Because with TV basketball, it would be so much harder to do that, to, number one, know who your kids are around all the time because, you've got so many people around. But yeah, that's a real advantage. If you look at it on paper, and this, I mean, it looks like, oh my gosh, the cupboard's bare. But you've got a pretty good team coming back. Talk about some of your returners and what you're going to look like this year. You're going to look different.
Yeah, I hope people think the cupboard's bare. That would be ideal.
Well, we'll dispel that myth today.
The cupboard is definitely not bare, but it is different, right? I think that's the beauty about coaching is every year, regardless of who your returners are, regardless of who the new guys are, who graduates, whatever, every situation is a little different because all it takes is one player to either be gone or one player to join your team, and it's automatically different. And so obviously, we lost a lot of high-profile guys. But, you look back and you take a look at our basketball team and how we've created this is we've never made this to be about one person anyway. And, one of our goals is can we have 6-7 guys in double figures constant to where, okay, if you do stop our so-called alpha, we got other guys that can hurt you. We did that with Frankie. And a perfect example, like Frankie was so good for us. And then when he graduated, there was a little talk going like, man, I don't know if Grace is going to be as good without Frankie Davidson. And again, it's not a pick on Frankie. Frankie was incredible, but it's always next man up. And then now it's the same thing as like,
Exactly. Yeah.
holy smokes, they lost the player of the year. Yes, we're not going to be able to replace Elijah Malone, but Ian Scott is Ian Scott. And that kid has been waiting for 3 years, and people know it, like they know who it is. And he's not a surprise name, but like Billy, people are gonna know this year just how good we were. And a lot of the reasons we won 34 games last year was because Ian Scott. He's just going to have a much bigger role. And then you realize, again, you get into this, you're like, okay, you lost the twins, you lost Wadding, kind of that glue guy, you lost Cole, great locker room guy. Well, then you turn around and you go, man, I forgot that Gage Sefton and Ian Rosh, our two sophomores, were really, really good. They just were stuck behind really good players who happen to be 22 years old. So, yeah, it's different. Defensively, we are not going to be as talented as we were last year just because of the length and athleticism. But I also even told the boys the other day, this sounds weird, but offensively, we're actually going to be able to do more in the half court because we're much more spaced. We can shoot it a little better.
Right.
The ball moves a little bit quicker, right? There's not as much stoppage. So, yeah, I think there's pros and cons with anything. But I like the guys. We have 7 seniors. And I think people forget about that. We were really top heavy with juniors and seniors. So we have a ton of experience. My 3 guards are coming back that have 3 national tournament experience. Bryson, Carter, and Brett have all played, 20, 25 minutes a game. They've started for me for 3 years. So just having the experience at the guard position is a big deal. And then, the 2 sophomores have just been tremendous. They've taken a huge step. And then, our alpha is Ian Scott, and, he's going to have a big year for us to be successful. But we've added some really good freshmen. We added 1 transfer. And I like where we're at right now. And I think it's almost time to play somebody else.
Well, I've talked about Ian Scott several times because, yes, you're right. People know his name. But I don't think people realize that this guy has huge potential. The way he explodes around the basket is unique. The first time I saw him play was you guys were playing West Virginia Tech out there at Winona Lake. And there was a pivotal play in the game. West Virginia Tech was giving you some trouble at this point in the game. And a ball either came loose or I think a ball came loose along the baseline. Like a cat, he had that ball and over 2 guys, jammed it on the run, and it ended the game basically. The whole momentum of the game changed and it was over from that point. He can change a game in 1 play.
Yeah, he for sure can. And he's so good with the ball in his hands. I think that's the one thing you'll see is, very rarely will we have a guy average 20 points a game on our team. It's just not how we're built, just the way we play. But nothing would shock me if Ian Scott averaged, this year 18, 11 and averaged 5 assists a game. Like he's such a great passer. He's instinctive. He's so savvy around the, obviously he's not a 68% 3-point shooter like he did last year, but you can see like the confidence is there, right? Like if he's open, we have no problem with him catching and shooting. I had to hear that from Coach Parnell when we played him the first time, like, gosh, we're leaving the one guy open because it's the one shot we think we can give up. And I think he goes 3 for 4 or 2 for 3 or whatever in that game. It's like, what are we doing? But he has it all. He has it all as far as a basketball player, and he is going to be a household name here. The one thing for Ian is just, and again, I think he has this, but the one thing for Ian he has to continue to do is, like, I can't want it for you. And I can't, make you be the first team All-American player of the year, what, yada, yada, yada. Like, I can present you opportunity, but like, young man, you need to want it. And you need to take yourself seriously. And he's got that factor. Right. He just needs to view himself as that. And I think that's a little bit like, he's so unselfish. He had this a little bit where he's almost too unselfish at times, where it's like, hey man, like, dude, when we need a bucket, the ball's going to you. So I need you to, like, be the man in this situation. And that's where we're at with Ian Scott now. It's just like, Ian, like, you are the alpha, man. I'm running it for you. Make the play, and I know you're going to make the right play. So excited for the season ahead for him. I think he's just a tremendous player, and he's going to be he's going to have so much to add value to this season.
One of your sophomores, Gage Sefton, boy, he's very talented. I got to meet him one time, but he played at Blackhawk Christian. You get a lot of people out of Blackhawk, and if you look around the league, you just look at that basketball program, it just produces not only great basketball players, but great basketball players who are great people. What is special? What makes Blackhawk Christian up there in Fort Wayne? What makes them so special?
Well, I noticed it about 10 years ago, Billy, where you're talking about high schools now, and I know it's a private high school in Indiana, but I think the people make anything. And when, I went to visit, we were recruiting a young man there. And again, it was probably now about 6-8 years ago, and Mark Davidson was the coach there, which we know the story by now with Frankie and Marcus's dad. But like, you just feel like when you're going around touring high schools, you can tell the differences. And like, I walked out of Blackhawk thinking like, man, this is just, it's so different. They're so together. They're so family oriented where like, it's almost like people are in each other's business, but in a positive way. Like everybody cares so much. And then when Mark went through the cancer, you really got to see firsthand what the community was all about. And remember, Blackhawk is in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the second largest city in Indiana, right? So it's not, I mean, it's a big town. I mean, it's not your little, farm town, Indiana, but here's this little pocket of people. And I'm just, every time I'm going away going, man, like you just feel refreshed when you get out of there. And so I think we just had a good connection with them because I feel like that's a little bit what Grace is as a college version of Blackhawk. And obviously they've had a lot of talent from the basketball program in general. So once we started getting those kids, you started to realize like, hey, these are just good fits for us. Like the transition from Blackhawk, the coaching they get, the style they get, how they're being loved on, how they're being treated, the family atmosphere. When they come to Grace, there's that transition. It's like, man, this is a lot similar to what I'm used to. And I think as an 18-year-old, there's comfort in that. It's a shell shock to go anywhere as a college freshman. That it's real difficult to just, it's hard at times. But man, we've had the easiest the transformation that we see with these kids. The easiest we've seen has been our Blackhawk kids because they're just getting a lot of the same stuff we get. And, touching on Gage Sefton, like that kid is a star. He is a star. And I cannot wait to see him take such a big role this year because, again, he's going to be a household name before too long, and now his opportunities arrive.
You and I have talked many times about your staff. You have one of the top staffs in the country. And this season, Jordan Widener and Stephen Halstead are both designated as associate head coaches, which is obviously a title you earn. And then the job Charlie Warner did last year, his first year as an assistant coach. Just talk about your staff and what they mean to you.
I tell people all the time, it's your number one recruiting job as a head coach. Your biggest recruits are the people that you hire to work side by side with you. And for me, what I wanted in this process was I wanted, a guy, 2 guys, 3 guys, whatever, that, ultimately that were loyal to me, but also that like we're going in the same direction as me. And also we're in very similar like life aspects. And that has nothing to do with staffs that have, older or younger or people who are not from the same school or whatnot. But for me, there's something about Grace that I didn't have to have a Grace guy. We know that Widener is not. He's, obviously a Wesleyan guy, but like very similar in ages, very similar in life. And I wanted to be able to attack this as more of almost a ministry, as opposed to just the job. And I felt if I could get guys like that, then I think the winning could be even, I think we could win more games, to be honest with you. Like, I just thought that they're really good at what they do. They're good at, they're personable. They are great recruiters. They know we know what we want. I think that's the one thing is what's so unique about these guys is we know who we are and we know who we aren't. And so when we recruit, I know we'll talk about this 25 class that we got, but like when we recruit, these guys know exactly what we are looking. And it doesn't take, all I need is someone to say, I need Stephen Halstead to call me and say, hey, I don't think this kid fits us. Here's why. And it's good. Like, we'll just move off. And so, yeah, this summer, again, obviously with the success, you get some phone calls, and trust me, I think no one's talking about it, but the best recruiting job that Coach Moore did was having his 2 assistants come back to Grace. And that was the biggest win we had as far as recruiting goes, because their phone was blowing up. And it's really, really special for me to be beside them, because I do view them as co-coaches, to be honest with you.
Before we talk about the new young guys you got coming in, you have a transfer. You've been trying to fly under the radar here. You got Justin DeGraff. He played over at UC San Diego, 21 games, 10 points a game, I think.
10 minutes. Yeah, not 10 points. Yeah, 10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes. Okay, I read that wrong.
Yep.
But he's a senior. Boy, has the perfect NAI body, 6'7", athletic. Talk about him.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where, with the transfer stuff, I know you talked to obviously Coach Cottingham, and we're a little similar. Like, we don't take a lot of transfers. I think my biggest rule with the transfers is I don't like to recruit kids or take kids that I didn't recruit. Especially in a transfer. Like, it would almost have to be the perfect situation, stars align. So Justin was one of those guys. We actually we played against him and recruited him. He went to a prep school. He's an Indianapolis kid, but then he ended up moving to Michigan. And during COVID, we played him at a prep school, and we recruited the kid a little bit, but he had already committed to California. And he played 3 years there, and he's engaged, and his fiance's back here in Fort Wayne, and just like, it was just kind of one of those perfect timings where we had a spot, and I told him very upfront, like, hey, look, we're not looking for anyone to come save us. We don't need save, but if you're looking to join something that's a little bit bigger than just yourself. And he just, I liked his personality. I liked what he was looking for. He's looking to be on a team and looking to have an impact on, and he's good. He's big, he's physical. I think he'll take a little bit of relief off Ian Scott, just especially defensively, where Ian got sick and tired of guarding Malone for 3 years. I'm sure it's nice having another body just to bolster your front line. He can shoot it. He's a good catch and shoot guy, so it gives us a little different than what we've seen. And he's been good, man. He's 20, like anything else. He's 23 years old, and it's he just looks different, and he talks different than the freshmen do. So
yeah,
he'll be a really good addition to us, a really good role player, just to help bolster that front line. And I'm excited just to see how he fits in with these guys.
So you've got 4 freshmen on the roster this year. I know you've been out actively recruiting the 25 class as well. Talk about what's in the pipeline.
Oh yeah, 4 great kids, 4 perfect fits. I think first we had a kid come locally here that was kind of a late ad from Adams Central, Isaac Schultz, big body, just plays hard, 6'7", probably 225 or so. Does not look like a freshman. I mean, he can move some weight around. So really, really physical, trying to learn the game. College game's pretty quick. Obviously, you know that. And he's just doing a good job of just processing stuff and just saying, okay, once we get the speed down, he'll be good. We got a Fort Wayne Concordia kid, just a tremendous, tremendous young man. Cole Hayworth, probably 6'5", 6'6", just wing. Great athlete, had a really good high school career. And then two really good fits also on top of that. We had a Fort Wayne Carroll kid, Cannon Hauser, 6'5" shooting guard, can really shoot the leather off the ball. But I've noticed with having Cannon in practice, super high IQ, and the game's not too fast for him mentally. He's done a really good job of I think the Cannon's going to be really benefit from playing with these older guys. Will take a lot of pressure off him. He won't be focused on a lot. But I do expect him to be in the rotation, and
okay.
He's a kid that he can play. Like, he just instinctively knows how to play. And then a kid that is kind of funny. It's a perfect story about how we recruit. Kid from Noblesville, Indiana, which obviously one of the best high school programs in the state. And last year was, arguably the best team, if not the second best team in the state of Indiana. And we're going down and we're recruiting some different players. And I didn't know Hunter Walston at all. I had heard about him a little. But I watched play, and at this time, Noblesville is probably 16-1 or 17-1 or something like that. Really, really good. And I'm watching a game. I'm just like, golly, man, like, I know these other kids are good, but that kid right there, like, he just does stuff that just wins, like just little things. And it's funny because I went back and I thought of two people when I watched Hunter play. I thought of Charlie Warner, who's on our staff now, and then I thought of Bryson Graber, who is our point guard now.
Right.
And both those instances, Charlie Warner, I went down to recruit Charlie. He's from Westfield, not far from Noblesville, actually, in Indianapolis. And I watched him warm up. And in 5 minutes, I can tell watching him warm up, look, I don't even know if this kid's any good, but I want him on my team. Like, it just something about this kid, how he moves, how he leads, everything is particular. Everything is at a high level. And obviously, we know how that ended up. He ended up shooting 49% for his career from 3-point.
One of the best sharpshooters in NAI history.
And then Bryson's similar story where we're going to the Hall of Fame Classic, and my staff we're actually recruiting a different player on another team, and we watch this kid play, and I'm like, gosh, I don't care what he can't do. I don't care all the things he's not good at. I know this. He wins, and he wins a ton, and he was the all-time leading assist player in Indiana high school history, which is funny because we just signed a kid for 2025 that's trying to break that record, and the Tipton kid, Grady Carpenter. But yeah, it's just, the Hunter is the same thing. He's 6'7". He's a point forward. So he's kind of a four-man, but he handles the ball. And you'll see when you get to watch him play. He'll play some for us this year. I do expect him to be in the rotation. Very, very savvy inside 10, 12 feet. He's got that post-up game as a guard and can create mismatches. And when you talk about the Lancers and what we do, obviously it's no secret. That's kind of how we like to play and how to recruit, is just big, long, athletic, and then just try to put matchups on the floor that we can take advantage of.
I wanted to talk about your schedule. I was going through it. You're really going to get tested before Thanksgiving. You're going to open with UNOH, and I talked to Rich Westerland, a few weeks ago now, and I think they're going to be a lot better. And of course, Rio Grande is always going to be tough, and then Cornerstone. You go to Madonna. You're going to host Michigan Dearborn, who was down last season, but that's a tough program, St. X. And then you start league play with Marion. Boy, you're going to get tested early.
Yeah, good scheduling. I don't know what idiot did that, but
I think Halstead. Let's blame him.
Well, that's why I say they're co-head coaches. They get all the blame when I get the blame. So, yeah, I mean, you've heard it from every coach. Like, you get to a point, and I can be transparent with you. Like, you get to a point, when your program gets to, kind of where it is, and you do establish something you feel really good about. I do think that as a coach, you can change your schedule a little bit. Like, we do want to get tested. And I think depending on what your goal is, and our goal was, and it still remains, like, we want to win the league and we want to hang a banner and we want to win in the city. So I just think it's hard to do that. The conference is going to test you regardless. So we're fortunate as the Crossroads League, where our strength of schedule and RPI, because of the league, it actually gives us a little bit more leeway as non-conference, where you don't have to load up if you don't want to, just because it's still going to be a good strength of schedule, because you're going to play, honestly, 10 ranked games just in conference. But those teams that, have aspirations of, making a run in Kansas City, I've seen in the past, like, you have to, man. You got to test your kids. You got to put your kids in situations that are uncomfortable. That's why we did the Oregon thing, where we're, at OIT is a hard place to win. Like, that's difficult. And, we're going to turn around. I fully expect Madonna to be a top 10, 12 team in the country. We're going to turn around and go play Noel's team second week. And, we're going at 2 Cornerstone, which we all know Coach Elder is one of the best to do it, and see that. And then in our Christmas trip, we're trying to do something. And I had a good situation where San Antonio, where Sagu is coming down to play us. I expect them to be a top 25 team. And I think they got a name change now. They're not Sagu, but yeah, it's nothing changes. We're going to test. We play Marion and Wesleyan right away in the conference openers. So you just want to be prepared. And so, yeah, that's why we do what we do. Always excited for just the challenge. And more so, I knew going into last year where we were. Like, I had the same kids for so long. There was no hidden expectation. Like, we were walking in at, 99.9% of the time we were the favorite. And You knew that. And so now it's kind of fun because as a coach, you're like, man, I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see where we're at. And those early games, especially the tip-off tournament, just to start, we're gonna play Richards, and they press people in the stands. I mean, they guard everybody, and I
Yeah.
like that. I like
He's
we're
a
gonna get
pretty
thrown in the fire
competitive
right away.
he's a pretty competitive guy.
I mean, he got T-shirts that says "We press." It's not a secret what they do. And so I love that though. I love like we're gonna get challenging, and it's gonna be uncomfortable for our guys. And as a coach, you're excited to see how do our guys respond, how do they handle that. And yeah, looking forward to the year, looking forward to the schedule. It definitely sets us up to have a good year for sure.
I'm going to tell Taylor Kelly, who coaches down here at Corbin, his team's the same way. They play 94 feet. I'm going to tell him he needs to get those T-shirts. I like that. We press.
That's it. It's pretty creative, actually. Just we press. And like, hey, there's no hidden agenda with it. It's we are who we are. We do what we. Richard does a good job at that, man. Like that's one thing I do really respect about him. They have an identity, and there are coaches out there that don't have one, and you know exactly who they are. And so, yeah, excited, maybe not excited. I don't know how I feel. We'll see how it goes in November. Bethel's going to be with us, so Coach Rabin's going to be down here. Little crossroads kind of cross action, which will be fun.
Let's talk a little bit about the Crossroads. The addition of a couple of coaches this season, Austin Peters over at Taylor, obviously Pat Knight at Marion, have created a little bit of a buzz. I think those are two great additions to the coaching fraternity there in the Crossroads.
You don't get a lot of. That's the one thing I heard you talk about. You don't get a lot of turnover in the Crossroads. Like this is kind of viewed as long time jobs. And if you look around the league, that's obvious. From top to bottom, you get guys that stay because it's a good situation. And so, Coach Hetty had the opportunity to go to UIndy where he graduated from. And, obviously just make a big splash with Pat. And, Austin I've known for a while. We played him when we were at Olivet, 3 years ago in the national tournament. And obviously had a chance to play when he went to Arizona Christian. So
Yep.
It's good. It's really neat to see, especially for Austin's sake, just because I know him. It's neat to see good young coaches just do it the right way, do it for the right reasons, have the right why. It's buzzy, man. Both those guys, like, it's not going to take long. In both programs, I mean, none of them are down, right? I don't know if you ever really say a program's down, but the so-called reload with both of those teams, with Pat's connection and then just Austin's skill set, just he's such a relational guy that, and it's good. That's what you want, right? You want to play the best of the best, and you want to play the Tonagles and the Alfords and the Cottinghams and the Lacrosses, and that's what you want if you are. Really looking forward to having them.
I thought one of the cool things Pat Knight did is he came out immediately and said, "This isn't a stepping stone. I'm here. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to retire." Because I'm sure a lot of people thought that this was just a way for him to break back into the coaching ranks, and he tried to dispel that as quickly as possible. I thought that was good.
Yeah, well, we think that. I think maybe it's an ego thing, maybe not, but you don't think Corey Alford can go coach with his dad, or just the connections that he knows, right? You don't think that Tonagel could leave every 5 minutes. You don't think Chad Lacrosse has got a phone call? Cottingham's been there since the Civil War. I mean, you don't think he's had a phone call before? So it is an appreciation you have. It's not a stepping stone. We consider some of the best college basketball jobs in the country at any level. The facilities are fantastic. Pat talked a little bit about it, and I think he's really going to get experience once he gets sub. I think one thing I can attest to, it is pure. It is like when you talk about coaching basketball at the collegiate level, where academics are in play, where the development relationships are in play, it's that old school mindset. Like we have it here, and we have it across the country. And so there are times where, especially today's landscape, it's just different. I'm not saying it's good, bad, and different. It's just different.
Yes.
And you're seeing a lot of these coaches get out of these high major programs just because of kind of the things they've had to experience or change. And you just don't see a lot of that in the NAI. You see a lot of guys going, man, take a look around. You're like, the grass is actually maybe greener here where I'm watering it. It's kind of nice beer. So that's what I think Pat will even see as a coach at Marion, where, it's not, he's right. It's not a stepping stone. I mean, it's a powerhouse, and you're going to get good players. And, I don't know his teams that he had at Lamar, but I can tell you this, he's going to have just as good, if not better players at Marion as he did at Lamar, is the way it works.
Yeah, that's what he was thinking. He was saying that a lot of guys that are available at the high school level are guys that he would have recruited to Lamar. He did mention that.
Especially now, right, with the COVID stuff.
Yeah, and the transfer. You're talking about Cottingham and Tonagel. I think Cottingham, it sounds like he's his agent, I think, at this point.
Well, Cottingham's been trying to do that with all of us for the last, 25 years. It's funny because I keep getting phone calls, and it's like, hey, we had a reference from Mr. Cottingham up in Spring Arbor, Michigan, about you interested in taking this job down in Tennessee. I'm like, oh, really? Interesting.
See, Ryan, we want to tell you right now, when you poke at these guys, they get a chance to poke you back.
Yeah, he's got to deal with it because now he's the old guy. He literally is the oldest coach in the league, and I know he looks good, but he's pushing 70. I mean, he's got to be 71 years old at this point. But no, Ryan is excellent. He's an excellent coach. He's an excellent mentor, and it's no secret. Like, he's got a team. One thing that in today's world, to keep your roster intact, especially with a kid that is obviously going to be pursued by other colleges pretty heavily in Neuhoff, that goes to show you that the program is special. And that's not just his program. That's a lot of these programs in the league where these guys have opportunities and they are staying put. Malone could have left us any time in the last 3, and he stays all 4 years. He graduates to the point where it's like, hey, look, man, I love you, but you have to go. Like, you're getting so much money in this opportunity, you can't pass up. And maybe I'm going to be regretting that come January and wishing I had the big fella back. But it shows you what the program really is about, to have a guy like Gabe Neuhoff say, nope, I'm coming back to Spring Arbor. These are my teammates. These are my coaches. I love it here, which is really neat. It sucks to play against, but you respect it as a coach.
Scott, I can't let you go without asking you, tell us about the exciting things going on at Grace. I mean, Grace basketball is a big, big deal, but there's lots of stuff going on at Grace athletically and around the college.
Yeah, it's just a fun time. And I've got to experience this. Obviously, my brother went to school here, so I was around in the really early 2000s. Went to school here in the mid 2000, late 2000, in the 2010s, and coming back as a coach then and seeing. So I've been around Grace and Grace basketball essentially for 25 years now. And man, just to see the campus, it's buzzy. We had back-to-back the highest enrollments we've ever had. We just found out that we have more deposit already at this point than we did last year by 40, and last year was a record enrollment year.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
On top of that, we've been blessed with just, the CCC grant that we can officially talk about now was, we got $30 million essentially. And it's not just Grace, but the whole community, Winona Lake into Warsaw. They're doing some structure just to improve the quality of life and improve our campus and improve, just the look and the feel of the town. And so there's a lot of things going on from, engineering is getting a new building to we're getting a new athletic complex for, an indoor outdoor facility where we can, send our outdoor teams to practice in the wintertime. Our weight room, our whole field house in the rec center where we do summer camps is completely being redone.
Wow.
Our weight room is essentially being quadrupled in size. So just everything right now, it's just a blessing. God's doing so many cool things. Obviously there's a lot of money still to be raised, but it's just a neat time to be a part of not only Grace basketball, but Grace athletics, and then Grace in general. And I'm a big advocate for that. I was a Grace guy, and I'm not pitching a magic show here. I'm selling what I believe in. It's yeah, man, when I look around and I hear, just this job, that job, this job, gosh, I truly believe I got one of the best jobs in the country. I'm lucky enough that they chose me, and hopefully they'll hang on to me for a couple years here at least, but it's a cool time to be a Lancer.
Absolutely. The only penance you got to pay is you still got to work with your brother.
Yeah, I can deal with that though. I'm his boss. So as long as I'm above him, which I've been above him since, we came out of the womb.
Oh my God.
As long as nothing changes where he's not my boss, we'll be good.
Well, Scott, I really appreciate you taking all this time, talk to us about Lancer basketball. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Billy. Obviously, you know how I feel about you and what you do, and it's so neat. Just we're around the corner, man. Hearing these coaches talk and hearing these guys talk about it gets you excited because, gosh, the end of October, the beginning of November is just a couple weeks away, and real basketball is going to be played, man. So thank you so much for everything you.
I can't wait. Thanks, Scott. That means so much. That's Scott Moore. He's head men's basketball coach, Grace Lancers. Thanks, Scott.
All right, brother.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Also, please like and subscribe this show wherever you watch or listen to it. It helps a lot. And if you have a question you'd like answered on the show, just send me a note at cascadehoopstalk@gmail.com or just shoot me a DM on Twitter. I hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy your day. We'll see you next time. Yours truly, Billy D. Thank you very much for supporting our podcast. Please like and subscribe. Get out to your local NAI school because NAI basketball is the best entertainment value in America.